The morning sun cast long shadows across the military training facility as Captain Sarah Mitchell adjusted her uniform one final time. At 28 years old, she had already earned a reputation that preceded her wherever she went in military circles. Her journey to this moment had been anything but ordinary, filled with challenges that would have broken most people long before they reached her level of achievement. Sarah's story began in a small town in Montana, where her father worked as a mechanic and her mother taught elementary school. From an early age, Sarah showed an unusual combination of physical prowess and intellectual curiosity that set her apart from her peers. While other children played video games or watched television, Sarah could be found climbing trees, building obstacle courses in her backyard, or reading military history books borrowed from the local library. Her fascination with the military started when she was just 8 years old. Her grandfather, a World War II veteran, would visit during holidays and share stories of his service in the Pacific Theater. Unlike other children who might grow bored with war stories, Sarah hung on every word, asking detailed questions about tactics, equipment, and the bonds formed between soldiers in combat. Her grandfather noticed this intense interest and began teaching her basic military principles, from map reading to understanding chain of command. During her high school years, Sarah excelled in both academics and athletics. She was captain of the cross-country team, maintained a 4.0 GPA, and spent her summers attending leadership camps and wilderness survival programs. Her teachers often commented on her unusual maturity and her ability to remain calm under pressure. What they didn't know was that Sarah had been secretly preparing herself for a military career since she was 12 years old. The decision to pursue special operations came during her sophomore year of college, when she attended a guest lecture by a former Navy SEAL. The speaker talked about the importance of mental toughness, the brotherhood formed in extreme conditions, and the satisfaction that came from serving at the highest level. As Sarah listened, she felt a clarity of purpose that had been building for years finally crystallize into a concrete goal. However, the path to special operations was not straightforward for women during the early years of Sarah's career. When she first expressed interest in SEAL training, she was told repeatedly that it wasn't possible, that certain doors remained closed regardless of qualification or desire. Instead of giving up, Sarah chose a different approach. She would prove herself so thoroughly in every available opportunity that when barriers finally came down, no one could question her readiness. Sarah enlisted in the Navy immediately after college graduation, despite having offers for graduate school and civilian careers. Her family struggled to understand her choice, especially her mother, who worried about the dangers and uncertainties of military life. Her father, however, recognized something in Sarah's eyes that reminded him of her grandfather's unwavering determination during the war years. Basic training was where Sarah first encountered the skepticism that would follow her throughout her early military career. Some instructors assumed she would struggle with the physical demands, while others questioned her motives for choosing such a difficult path. Sarah responded to doubt the only way she knew how, through consistent, exceptional performance that left no room for criticism. During combat training exercises, Sarah developed a reputation for innovative thinking under pressure. While her male counterparts often relied on brute force to solve tactical problems, Sarah approached challenges with a combination of physical capability and strategic thinking that impressed even the most hardened instructors. She scored at the top of her class in weapons training, navigation, and leadership exercises. It was during advanced training that Sarah first heard rumors about changes coming to special operations policies. The military was slowly beginning to recognize that modern warfare required diverse skill sets, and that artificial barriers based on gender were preventing the most qualified candidates from serving in critical roles. Sarah knew this might be her only chance to pursue her ultimate goal, but she also understood that the scrutiny would be intense and unforgiving. Her commanding officers began to take notice of Sarah's consistent performance and her obvious ambition. Lieutenant Colonel James Harrison, who oversaw advanced training programs, called Sarah into his office one afternoon to discuss her career goals. He had served alongside some of the most elite units in the military and recognized qualities in Sarah that he had seen in only a handful of soldiers throughout his career. The conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Harrison proved to be a turning point. He explained that while official policies hadn't changed yet, There were unofficial preparation programs designed to help exceptional candidates get ready for eventual opportunities. These programs were grueling, often more difficult than the official training they were meant to prepare people for, and they came with no guarantees of success or advancement. Sarah didn't hesitate to volunteer for the unofficial preparation program. The training was conducted at remote facilities during off-duty hours and weekends. Participants were sworn to secrecy about the specific details of their activities. But word began to spread through military networks about a female soldier who was outperforming veteran special operations candidates in simulated missions. The physical demands of the preparation program pushed Sarah to limits she hadn't known existed. Days began before dawn with obstacle courses designed to test not just strength and endurance, but mental resilience when exhaustion made clear thinking nearly impossible. Combat scenarios were conducted with live ammunition and realistic consequences for tactical errors. Sleep deprivation exercises lasted for days at a time, testing participants' ability to maintain focus and make critical decisions when their bodies and minds were pushed beyond normal human limits. What separated Sarah from other exceptional candidates wasn't just her physical capabilities or tactical knowledge. Her instructors began to notice an unusual quality of leadership that emerged during the most challenging scenarios. When teams faced seemingly impossible situations, Sarah had an ability to inspire confidence and coordinate effective responses that turned potential disasters into successful missions. As months passed, Sarah's reputation began to extend beyond the training facility. Stories circulated about training exercises where she had outmaneuvered experienced special operations veterans, often using creative approaches that hadn't been considered by more conventional tactical thinkers. These stories reached the attention of senior military leaders who were quietly evaluating the potential for expanded special operations opportunities. The day finally came when Sarah received official notification that she had been selected for advanced evaluation. The message was brief and provided few details, but Sarah understood its significance. After years of preparation, she would have the opportunity to prove that she belonged among the military's most elite units. The evaluation would take place at a facility she had never seen before, under the supervision of instructors whose identities were classified at the highest levels. Sarah's final night before leaving for evaluation was spent alone, reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. She thought about her grandfather's stories, her family's concerns, and the countless hours of training that had prepared her for this moment. She also thought about the responsibility she carried, knowing that her performance would influence opportunities for other women who shared similar dreams and ambitions. The next morning, as Sarah boarded the transport that would take her to the evaluation facility, she carried with her not just years of preparation and training, but also the hopes of everyone who had supported her journey and the determination to prove that excellence in military service wasn't limited by traditional boundaries. The most challenging phase of her career was about to begin, but Sarah had never felt more ready for anything in her life. The evaluation facility was unlike anything Sarah had experienced during her years of military training. Located on a remote island off the coast of California, the compound seemed designed to test every aspect of human endurance and capability. The barracks were Spartan, the training areas were vast and unforgiving, and the instructors carried themselves with the quiet confidence that came from years of real-world combat experience. Sarah was one of 12 candidates selected for this evaluation cycle, and she quickly realized she was not only the only woman, but also one of the youngest participants. The other candidates included Army Rangers, Marine Force reconnaissance operators, and Air Force pararescue specialists, each with extensive combat experience and specialized training. As introductions were made during the first evening, Sarah felt the weight of 11 pairs of eyes assessing her presence and wondering if she truly belonged among their ranks. The first week of evaluation focused on individual capabilities. Each day began at 4 in the morning with physical training that pushed candidates beyond normal human limits. Ocean swims in frigid water lasted for hours, followed by obstacle courses that tested not just strength and agility, but problem-solving skills under extreme physical stress. Weapons training occurred with equipment Sarah had never seen before, requiring her to master new systems while maintaining the accuracy standards that had made her reputation during earlier training. What surprised many of the other candidates was Sarah's performance during the psychological evaluation components. Combat stress simulations placed participants in scenarios designed to break down mental resilience and decision-making capabilities. Candidates were subjected to sensory deprivation, extreme temperature variations, and simulated capture situations that tested their ability to maintain operational security under torture conditions. During one particularly challenging scenario, Sarah found herself leading a team of 3 other candidates through a simulated rescue mission in hostile territory. The exercise was designed to fail, with instructors continuously changing objectives and introducing complications that made success nearly impossible. As the team faced mounting obstacles and several members began to lose confidence, Sarah demonstrated the leadership qualities that had caught the attention of her instructors during preparation training. Rather than becoming frustrated by the constantly changing situation, Sarah adapted her approach to focus on keeping her team functional and motivated. When communications equipment was sabotaged during the exercise, she developed hand signals that allowed continued coordination. When their primary route was blocked by simulated enemy forces, she identified an alternative approach that required each team member to use their specialized skills in creative ways. The exercise continued for 18 hours, with instructors adding new challenges whenever it appeared the team might achieve their objectives. Sarah's teammates later commented that her calm presence and innovative problem-solving prevented them from giving up during the most difficult phases of the simulation. Even when exhaustion made clear thinking nearly impossible, Sarah maintained focus and continued to inspire confidence in her team's ability to complete their mission. It was during the second week that Sarah encountered Master Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez, a 20-year veteran of Navy SEAL operations who served as the senior instructor for combat training. Rodriguez had participated in some of the most significant special operations missions of the past 2 decades, and his reputation among elite military units was legendary. He was known for his ability to identify exceptional candidates and equally famous for his unwillingness to accept anything less than absolute excellence. Rodriguez's first interaction with Sarah came during a close-quarters combat exercise. The scenario required candidates to clear a multi-story building filled with hostile targets while protecting civilian hostages. The exercise was conducted with simulated ammunition that still carried real consequences for tactical errors, and previous candidates had struggled with the complex decision-making required to successfully complete the mission. Sarah approached the exercise with the same methodical preparation she brought to all challenges. She studied the building layout, analyzed likely enemy positions, and developed multiple contingency plans for different scenarios she might encounter. When the exercise began, her movement through the building was fluid and efficient, demonstrating not just individual skill, but an understanding of team dynamics that impressed watching instructors. During the exercise, Sarah encountered a situation where standard tactical doctrine suggested one approach, but her analysis of the specific circumstances indicated a different strategy would be more effective. Rather than following conventional wisdom, she trusted her judgment and implemented an alternative plan that successfully neutralized threats while ensuring hostage safety. The exercise concluded with all objectives achieved and no simulated casualties among her team or the civilians they were protecting. Rodriguez approached Sarah immediately after the exercise conclusion. His expression was unreadable, and Sarah prepared herself for criticism or questions about her non-standard approach during the building clearing operation. Instead, Rodriguez asked a simple question that would become a turning point in her evaluation experience. "Where did you learn to think like that?" Rodriguez asked, referring to Sarah's innovative tactical decisions during the exercise. Sarah explained her approach to analyzing complex situations, describing how she combined traditional military doctrine with creative problem-solving techniques she had developed during years of preparation. Rodriguez listened carefully, occasionally asking follow-up questions that demonstrated his understanding of advanced tactical concepts. The conversation with Rodriguez led to additional opportunities for Sarah to demonstrate her capabilities. She was selected for advanced combat scenarios that had previously been reserved for candidates with extensive field experience. These exercises included long-range reconnaissance missions, deep-water infiltration techniques, and specialized weapons training that required both physical capability and technical expertise. During a night navigation exercise in mountainous terrain, Sarah demonstrated skills that surprised even experienced instructors. The exercise required candidates to reach multiple checkpoints over difficult terrain while carrying full combat equipment and maintaining radio silence. Weather conditions were deliberately challenging, with rain and fog reducing visibility to mere feet in some areas. Sarah not only completed the exercise within the required time frame, but also discovered an injured candidate from a previous group who had become lost in the terrain. Rather than continuing toward her final objective, Sarah chose to provide assistance and guide the injured candidate to safety, even though this decision would likely impact her own performance evaluation. Her actions demonstrated the kind of judgment and character that Rodriguez had been trained to identify in potential SEAL candidates. At the rescue incident. The rescue incident became a defining moment in Sarah's evaluation. Instructors had been monitoring all candidates throughout the exercise, and they had deliberately left the injured candidate in position to test how participants would respond to unexpected ethical challenges. Sarah's immediate decision to prioritize another person's safety over her own advancement showed the kind of moral character that was considered essential for Special Operations Service. As the evaluation period progressed, Sarah's reputation among both instructors and fellow candidates continued to grow. During team-building exercises, other participants began seeking her input on tactical problems and looking to her for leadership during challenging scenarios. This organic recognition from experienced military operators was perhaps more significant than any official evaluation scores in demonstrating her readiness for Special Operations Service. The final phase of evaluation involved a comprehensive mission simulation that lasted 5 days and incorporated every skill that had been tested during the previous weeks. Candidates were divided into teams and assigned objectives that required them to demonstrate proficiency in combat operations, survival skills, leadership capabilities, and decision-making under extreme stress. Sarah's team was assigned a particularly challenging mission that required infiltration of a heavily defended compound, extraction of high-value intelligence, and exfiltration through hostile territory while avoiding capture. The simulation was conducted with such realism that participants often forgot they were in a training environment rather than an actual combat zone. Throughout the 5-day exercise, Sarah consistently demonstrated the combination of skills and judgment that had brought her to the attention of special operations leaders. Her technical competence was matched by tactical creativity, and her physical capabilities were complemented by mental resilience that remained steady even during the most stressful phases of the mission. On the final day of evaluation, as candidates prepared for their departure from the island facility, Rodriguez approached Sarah for a private conversation. His demeanor had evolved from the skeptical assessment of their first meeting to something approaching professional respect. The conversation would prove to be more significant than Sarah could have imagined at the time, setting in motion events that would soon bring her to the attention of the highest levels of military leadership. 6 months after completing her evaluation, Sarah found herself stationed at Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado, California. The official announcement of her selection for SEAL training had created ripples throughout the military community, generating both support and skepticism from different quarters. Sarah understood that her success or failure would be scrutinized more intensely than any previous SEAL candidate, and she accepted this responsibility with characteristic determination. The actual SEAL training program, known as BUD/S Basic Underwater Demolition/SEAL, proved to be everything Sarah had prepared for and more. The physical demands were relentless, with each day testing candidates' limits in different ways. Swimming exercises in the Pacific Ocean challenged endurance and technique, while obstacle courses demanded explosive power and mental resilience. The famous Hell Week pushed participants beyond what most people believed humanly possible. With continuous training for 5.5 days on minimal sleep and nutrition, Sarah's approach to Hell Week became legendary among her training class. Rather than simply enduring the punishment, she helped maintain morale among struggling teammates and demonstrated innovative solutions to seemingly impossible challenges. During one exercise that required teams to carry heavy rubber boats over sand dunes for miles, Sarah organized her group to rotate positions systematically, ensuring that no individual became overwhelmed while maintaining the pace required by instructors. The cold water exposure during Hell Week tested every candidate's mental toughness. Sitting in frigid ocean surf for hours while instructors evaluated their ability to function under extreme physical stress, Sarah developed techniques for managing hypothermia symptoms and maintaining cognitive function when her body temperature dropped to dangerous levels. Her performance during these exercises impressed instructors who had seen hundreds of candidates attempt the same challenges over their careers. What distinguished Sarah from even successful SEAL candidates was her performance during the intellectual components of training. Modern SEAL operations required extensive technical knowledge, from explosives handling to advanced communication systems. Sarah excelled in every academic area, often finishing written examinations before other candidates had completed half the questions, yet maintaining perfect scores that demonstrated genuine understanding rather than quick guessing. During demolitions training, Sarah showed particular aptitude for calculating explosive charges and understanding the physics involved in underwater demolition work. Her background in mathematics and engineering, combined with practical experience gained during evaluation training, allowed her to grasp complex concepts that challenged even experienced military operators. Instructors began using her work as examples for other candidates who struggled with the technical aspects of SEAL training. The psychological evaluation component of SEAL training tested candidates' ability to maintain operational effectiveness under extreme stress. Sarah participated in simulated interrogation exercises that lasted for days, during which instructors used sophisticated psychological techniques to break down resistance and extract classified information. Her performance during these exercises demonstrated not just personal resilience, but an understanding of human psychology that would prove valuable during actual operations. Combat training introduced Sarah to weapon systems and tactical techniques that represented the cutting edge of special operations capability. She mastered everything from advanced sniper rifles to underwater breathing apparatus, often achieving expert qualification levels more quickly than candidates with extensive military experience. Her natural marksmanship ability, combined with hours of practice during preparation training, made her one of the most accurate shooters in her training class. It was during advanced combat exercises that Sarah first worked directly with experienced SEAL operators, who served as training instructors. These men had participated in actual operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other classified locations around the world. Their initial skepticism about training alongside a female candidate gradually transformed into professional respect as Sarah consistently demonstrated competence that matched or exceeded their expectations. Petty Officer First Class David Chen had served 3 combat deployments and initially questioned the decision to include women in SEAL training. His concerns were based not on prejudice but on legitimate worries about unit cohesion and operational effectiveness in combat situations. Working with Sarah during training exercises gradually changed his perspective as he observed her technical skills, tactical judgment, and ability to function effectively under pressure. During one particularly challenging training scenario, Sarah and Chen were paired as a 2-person reconnaissance team tasked with gathering intelligence on a simulated enemy compound. The exercise required them to remain undetected for 48 hours while observing target activities and reporting information that would be used to plan a larger assault operation. The mission tested not just individual skills, but their ability to work together as an effective team. Throughout the exercise, Sarah demonstrated capabilities that impressed even skeptical veterans. Her patience during long observation periods, accuracy in reporting intelligence details, and ability to remain motionless for hours at a time showed the kind of mental discipline required for actual SEAL operations. When weather conditions deteriorated and the mission became more challenging, Sarah adapted without complaint and maintained focus on their objectives. Chen later commented that working with Sarah had been indistinguishable from partnering with any other competent SEAL operator. Her gender became irrelevant when measured against her professional capabilities and reliability under stress. This kind of organic acceptance from experienced operators was perhaps more meaningful than any official recognition of Sarah's achievements. The final phase of SEAL training included exercises designed to simulate actual combat operations. These scenarios incorporated everything candidates had learned during months of preparation, from underwater infiltration to close-quarters combat to advanced communications procedures. Success required not just individual competence but the ability to function effectively as part of a team under extreme stress. Sarah's final training exercise involved leading a team of 4 candidates in a simulated rescue mission behind enemy lines. The scenario was based on actual operations conducted by SEAL teams in recent conflicts, and it incorporated realistic complications and changing objectives that tested leadership abilities under pressure. Sarah's team was required to infiltrate by water, navigate through hostile territory, locate and extract a captured pilot, and return to their extraction point while avoiding enemy forces. The exercise lasted 3 days and included periods of intense action separated by long stretches of careful movement and observation. Sarah's leadership during the mission demonstrated not just technical competence but an understanding of team dynamics that kept her group focused and motivated throughout the challenging operation. When unexpected complications threatened to compromise their mission, Sarah made tactical decisions that successfully adapted their plan while ensuring team safety. Upon completion of the exercise, Sarah's instructors provided feedback that would become part of her permanent record. Master Chief Rodriguez, who had observed her development since their first meeting during evaluation, noted that Sarah had consistently exceeded performance standards and demonstrated leadership qualities that would serve her well during actual operations. His recommendation carried particular weight, given his extensive experience and reputation for honest assessment of candidate capabilities. The graduation ceremony for Sarah's SEAL training class was attended by senior military leaders who recognized the historic significance of the event. Admiral Patricia Thompson, one of the few female flag officers in the Navy, spoke about the importance of expanding opportunities while maintaining the high standards that made special operations units effective. Sarah understood that her graduation represented not just personal achievement, but a milestone that would influence military policy for years to come. Following graduation, Sarah was assigned to SEAL Team 7, based in Coronado. The team was scheduled to deploy within 6 months, and Sarah would have the opportunity to apply her training in actual operational conditions. Her new teammates included veterans of multiple combat deployments who would evaluate her capabilities not in training scenarios but in situations where mistakes could have fatal consequences. The period between graduation and deployment was filled with additional training specific to their upcoming mission. Sarah learned that SEAL Team 7 would be operating in a region where cultural sensitivity and language skills would be as important as combat capabilities. Her natural aptitude for languages and her ability to build rapport with people from different backgrounds made her particularly valuable for certain types of operations. As Sarah prepared for her first deployment, she reflected on the journey that had brought her from a small town in Montana to the elite ranks of naval special warfare. The challenges ahead would be different from anything she had faced during training, but she felt ready to prove that her selection had been based on merit and that her presence would enhance rather than compromise her team's effectiveness. 2 years after joining SEAL Team 7, Sarah had participated in multiple combat deployments and earned the respect of her teammates through consistent performance in high-stress situations. Her reputation had grown beyond her immediate unit, and stories of her operational successes had reached the highest levels of military command. It was during a routine training exercise at Quantico that the encounter occurred which would define her career in ways she could never have anticipated. The joint training exercise brought together personnel from different military branches to practice coordinated operations. Sarah was attending as part of a SEAL team demonstration of advanced reconnaissance techniques when she decided to visit the base commissary during a break in the schedule. Still wearing her standard military fatigues, without any visible rank insignia due to special operations security protocols, Sarah appeared to be just another service member among the hundreds of personnel on base that day. As Sarah waited in line to purchase supplies, she noticed a young Navy SEAL from a different team standing behind her. Petty Officer Jake Morrison was new to special operations, having recently completed SEAL training himself, and he carried himself with the enthusiasm and confidence typical of newly graduated operators. Morrison had heard stories about the first female SEAL, but had never met her personally, and he didn't recognize Sarah from their brief encounters during training rotations. Morrison, making casual conversation with what he assumed was a regular Navy personnel, asked Sarah about her role on base. When Sarah mentioned she was with Special Operations, Morrison's curiosity was piqued. Assuming she worked in an administrative or support capacity, he jokingly asked what her rank was, expecting to hear about a clerical position or perhaps a role in communication support. His tone was friendly but carried the unconscious assumption that special operations combat roles remained exclusively male. Sarah smiled at Morrison's question, recognizing both his genuine curiosity and his underlying assumptions. Rather than immediately correcting his misconceptions, she simply replied that she held the rank of lieutenant, leaving her specific role unstated. Morrison, still not understanding who he was speaking with, continued the conversation with increasingly playful questions about her duties and experience, clearly assuming she had limited exposure to actual operational activities. The conversation might have continued indefinitely if not for an unexpected interruption. As Sarah and Morrison talked, 4 senior military officers entered the commissary for their own shopping. What made this significant was not just their presence, but their ranks and the rarity of seeing such high-level leadership in a routine location like the base store. General Patricia Hayes, a 3-star Army general known for her leadership in Special Operations Command, was the first to notice Sarah. General Hayes had been following Sarah's career closely since her graduation from SEAL training, and she recognized both Sarah's face and the significance of her achievements. Behind General Hayes were General Michael Rodriguez, a Marine Corps 2-star general who specialized in unconventional warfare, Admiral James Patterson, a Navy flag officer responsible for East Coast SEAL operations, and General Robert Chen, an Air Force general who coordinated joint special operations missions. The presence of 4 general officers in a base commissary was unusual enough to draw attention from everyone present, but what happened next was unprecedented in Morrison's experience. Upon seeing Sarah, all 4 senior officers immediately approached her, and without any prompting or announcement, they came to attention and rendered proper military salutes in recognition of her achievements and service record. Morrison watched in growing amazement as each general officer took time to speak personally with Sarah, addressing her with obvious respect and familiarity. General Hayes complimented Sarah on her recent mission performance, while Admiral Patterson discussed upcoming training opportunities that would utilize her specialized skills. The conversation clearly indicated that these senior leaders not only knew Sarah personally, but held her in the highest professional regard. As Morrison observed this interaction, he began to realize that his casual assumptions about Sarah's role had been completely incorrect. The respect shown by 4 general officers was not given lightly, and it indicated that Sarah held a position of significant importance within Special Operations community. Morrison felt a growing sense of embarrassment as he understood that he had been speaking casually with someone whose achievements far exceeded his own. General Rodriguez, noticing Morrison's presence and apparent confusion, approached the young SEAL with a knowing smile. Rodriguez had served long enough to recognize the signs of someone who had made incorrect assumptions about a colleague's capabilities based on incomplete information. Rather than embarrassing Morrison further, Rodriguez took the opportunity to provide some education about Sarah's background and achievements. Petty Officer Morrison, Rodriguez said, using a tone that was instructional rather than critical, I'd like you to meet Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, who has the distinction of being not only the first woman to complete SEAL training, but also one of the most operationally effective members of Naval Special Warfare. Her mission record includes achievements that most SEALs would consider career highlights. Morrison's face showed a mixture of embarrassment and amazement as Rodriguez continued to describe Sarah's operational history. The general mentioned classified missions where Sarah's cultural sensitivity and language skills had been crucial to mission success, as well as combat operations where her tactical innovations had saved lives and ensured objective completion. The picture that emerged was of an operator whose gender was far less significant than her exceptional professional capabilities. Admiral Patterson joined the conversation, adding details about Sarah's role in training programs designed to improve special operations effectiveness. Her experiences as the first woman in SEAL service had provided insights that were being used to enhance training for all operators, regardless of gender. The Admiral noted that Sarah's perspective had identified training gaps that had existed for years but had never been recognized by traditional approaches to operator preparation. Sarah, who had remained quiet during this impromptu career review, finally spoke to address Morrison directly. Rather than expressing any annoyance at his earlier assumptions, she used the moment as an opportunity to discuss the importance of looking beyond surface appearances when evaluating colleagues' capabilities. Her tone was professional and educational, designed to help Morrison learn rather than to make him feel criticized for his honest mistakes. The most important lesson in special operations, Sarah told Morrison, is that effectiveness comes from understanding each team member's actual capabilities rather than making assumptions based on traditional expectations. Some of the most successful missions I've participated in succeeded because we utilized skills and perspectives that weren't immediately obvious to outside observers. General Hayes, who had been listening to this exchange, took the opportunity to elaborate on the broader significance of diversity in military effectiveness. She explained that modern operations required teams with varied backgrounds and capabilities, and that success often depended on having personnel who could approach problems from different angles than conventional military thinking might suggest. The conversation continued for several more minutes, with each general officer contributing perspectives on Sarah's contributions to special operations effectiveness. Morrison listened carefully, recognizing that he was receiving an education about military leadership and the importance of evaluating people based on their actual performance, rather than preconceived assumptions about their roles or capabilities. As the general officers concluded their shopping and prepared to leave, each took time to speak privately with Sarah about upcoming opportunities and responsibilities. Their conversations clearly indicated that Sarah's career trajectory was being carefully managed at the highest levels of military leadership, and that her future assignments would provide opportunities to continue contributing to special operations evolution and effectiveness. After the general officers departed, Morrison remained with Sarah for a few additional minutes, apologizing for his earlier assumptions and expressing genuine appreciation for the lesson he had learned. Sarah accepted his apology graciously and used the opportunity to discuss the importance of maintaining open minds about colleagues' capabilities and the value of learning from unexpected encounters. The incident at Quantico became a defining moment for both Sarah and Morrison, though for different reasons. For Sarah, it represented recognition at the highest levels of military leadership, that her achievements had been based on merit, and that her presence in special operations was valued by those responsible for military effectiveness. For Morrison, it provided an important lesson about the dangers of making assumptions and the value of evaluating colleagues based on their actual capabilities and achievements. Word of the commissary encounter spread through special operations communities, becoming a story that illustrated both the recognition Sarah had earned and the importance of maintaining respect for all service members regardless of their background or appearance. The incident reinforced Sarah's reputation while also serving as an educational example for other personnel about the evolution of military service and the importance of judging colleagues by their professional performance rather than traditional expectations.